It's obviously a problem in Florida that people are suing and trying to get insurance money when they shouldn't be. Is it a problem in Texas? We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about bad guys who get shot, who end up suing you civilly. And what's brought this about is Governor Ron DeSantis out of Florida last week signed a bill meant to curb frivolous lawsuits against insurance companies. It has some good effects for self-defenders, but we're here today to talk about why it probably doesn't actually matter and you're still going to continue to be sued by these people. But before we get started, show your support for the segment by hitting the like button. Today's show sponsor is Sonoran Desert Institute. I know a lot of you out there like to repair and modify your own guns. If you're looking a way to take your hobby to the next level, Sonoran Desert Institute can help. The online programs at SDI cover armor courses, gunsmithing, ballistics, woodworking and finishes, shooting sports management, and more. Plus, tools and materials are shipped to your door for hands-on practice. It's never been a better time to get an education that you can actually use on the job. So, what are you waiting for? Visit sdi.edu or call 480-999-4767 to learn more. Today, I'm joined by fellow armed attorney Dylan Price. Welcome, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we have Dylan here special today because we have sort of a special topic. We're not talking about criminal law. We're not really even talking about the law of self-defense. We're talking about what happens when you get sued by the guy who broke into your home, the guy who tried to rob you at gunpoint. And why we've got Dylan here is because Dylan is our guy for that. So Dylan, you want to tell him a little bit about your practice?
Yeah, so I'm a civil litigator. I'm in a unique position here at the firm because I do the civil litigation. So whenever you have a use of force incident, whenever you shoot somebody, maybe you don't face criminal charges, maybe you do, but you will probably get sued. So the family's going to end up suing you. You're on the hook. They normally ask for like $1 million. They'll file a lawsuit against you. I'm the one that handles that for the firm. So self-defense incidents where someone gets shot, that's where I step in and defend you in the lawsuit.
And these happen all the time, which is what necessitated Governor Ron DeSantis out of Florida signing into law HB 837. And we're not going to talk actually too specifically about this law because really it just brings about the conversation, I think, of what's happening in this country, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it does things like shorten the statute of limitations so people have fewer years to sue you if they've been shot. And we're not going to talk in too much detail about what this bill does because it really actually touches not just on self-defense claims, right, or self-defense defenses to these personal injury and wrongful death claims. It's a lot of things. We're talking about you're in Florida, your house gets destroyed by a hurricane, right? You sue your insurance company when they don't pay out. He's trying to curb lots of abuses. You know, we're shortening statute of limitations. We're instituting things like comparative negligence. So that's really important for the self-defenders, right? What's comparative negligence?
So basically, it's if you're more than 50% at fault, you're on the hook. If you're less than 50% at fault for a claim, you're not on the hook.
Right. So basically, like, if the bad guy is more than half at fault for his injuries, like, let's say, because he broke into your house, they can't recover anything. It's obviously a problem in Florida that people are suing and trying to get insurance money when they shouldn't be. Is it a problem in Texas?
Yeah, it's absolutely a problem. And we've seen even more of the conservative areas of Texas, verdicts and judges being more plaintiff favorable. And so the landscape of civil litigation has changed recently, probably since 2018 or so, to where it's more plaintiff friendly. And
so, I mean, I think even we can take a step back and say, if these suits, right, are basically like, I'm the bad guy, I broke into your house, you shot me, like, how do these lawsuits even get filed? How is it even possible?
So it's a low barrier to entry. To file a lawsuit, it costs like $300. That's with the jury fee, that's with the filing fee. And these attorneys, these personal injury attorneys that file these, it costs them nothing. It costs the claimants nothing until there's a resolution with the case. So ultimately what happens is you'll file the lawsuit, maybe nothing happens with it, and then eventually you get a settlement offer or you get a judgment in your favor, and then a portion of that is taken out of what that person is at, the plaintiff is supposed to recover.
So I'm hiring you, but I'm not paying you.
Right, until there's a resolution with the case. They take a fee under contingency fee, so like 30% of the ultimate award that's of damages or a settlement.
Okay, so that's how the bad guys can hire the attorney. Why do the attorneys take the cases?
Well, it's low risk, high reward. Essentially, if they get a judgment that's in a huge amount, like $1 million.
When the person has insurance And we know, I mean, it's a bad case. Are the insurance companies paying?
Yes. So generally, these insurance companies and these insurance defense attorneys are dealing with cases involving like motor vehicle accidents, simple premises cases like slip and falls. But when there's a gun involved, it's somewhat shocking. And I think scares them, to be honest, to where they're more likely to settle because they don't want to deal with having to present this case in front of a jury.
Well, and do they know the gun laws and the self-defense laws?
No.
I think that's a huge problem, right?
Yeah, because I mean, we do have some defenses under Texas law, but if you look at the cost of litigation, it sometimes doesn't make sense to litigate this in front of to go all the way to a jury trial when you're paying those defense attorneys on an hourly basis, when they're having to front the cost of that litigation, when they could just settle for a lower amount, even if it's a frivolous claim or even if it's a baseless claim.
I think that's the big problem, right? Is that the plaintiff's lawyers are getting paid only if there's this cash payout at the end, right? So they are just, I mean, the plaintiff has no incentive not to push his case forward, right? And the insurance lawyers get paid hourly. And so, I mean, I imagine that that's what the insurance companies are doing. They're looking at these claims. They're saying, this is a really good case for us. We're going to win at trial, but that's going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 4 years from now. And we're going to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars to our own attorneys to get a $0 verdict, right? When we could just toss this guy $10,000 or, I mean, you've told me behind the scenes that it's actually way more than that. You know, let's say $50,000 to make it go away as opposed to, you know, $500,000 if we get through trials and potentially appeals and so on and so forth. So it makes sense, I guess, when you just look at the financials of it for the insurance company, dollars and cents, like why are they paying these claims? But what happens when they pay the claims? It makes people file more lawsuits because the attorneys are like, ooh, I know I can get a payout for this, right?
Yeah, which leads us back to tort reform. We've had numerous tort reform in Texas, and obviously Florida just passed their version of tort reform. It's not as restrictive as Texas's tort reform that happened in the early aughts. But yeah, that's what ultimately happens is the dam breaks and then the legislature gets involved because insurance companies, trucking companies, they all have lobbyists. They lobby and they say, hey, we need to cap out these damages. And so ultimately the dam may break at some point. I don't know if that's happening anytime soon, but it happened in Florida, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. I think that the question probably a lot of people are asking themselves right now is, if these cases are actually so bad, right? Like I broke into your house and I got shot for it and now I'm suing you, homeowner. Why are the judges letting them proceed? Why aren't the judges tossing them out?
So there are some ways that you can get a case tossed out or disposed of before you go to a jury trial. Judges just generally don't like granting those types of motions to get those cases dismissed. The other problem is a lot of those motions, if they get denied, like a motion for summary judgment, there's not really a way to go to the superior court to do an appeal or we call it a writ of mandamus in Texas for certain issues. So for a motion for summary judgment, you're basically saying, hey, there's no basis in law or basis in fact. That just means like maybe there aren't facts to support the case, or the law says, hey, you can't bring this claim. Like, let's say you're outside of the statute of limitations. You shouldn't be able to bring a claim outside of the statute of limitations, which is the period of time you're allowed to bring a case. But I've had instances where a case was brought outside of that period. It was like a day or two. The judge denied the motion for summary judgment. I did an appeal, and the appeal court summarily denied it, saying that, hey, you can't appeal the denial of an MSJ, a motion for summary judgment. And so there's not really a way that you can get that appealed or appeal that decision. So
it sounds like judges generally, they make bad calls, but they make calls that are very friendly to the person who's injured. And then there's not much we can do, right? I mean, except litigate it to the end, yeah?
Yeah, and I understand the judge's position on some of these issues because you want your day in court, and maybe it's not equitable to take that away from the plaintiff's attorney or the plaintiff in this case. But ultimately, you're supposed to be able to get these cases resolved. I mean, we've got a rule in Texas which says if it's a baseless or frivolous claim, you can get it dismissed, but it's rare that gets granted. Most of the time, the judges deny it just because they want to allow that plaintiff their day in court.
So basically, we've got this structural problem in the United States that, I mean, good for Governor Ron DeSantis for giving it a shot, but it's not going to work because even if the legislature puts these things into effect, right, puts these rules into effect to stop these abusive lawsuits, you've got to rely on the judges, right? And you've got to rely on the insurance companies who have to rely on the judges. And ultimately, if the insurance companies keep paying out nuisance fees, I mean, it's just going to keep happening. Good guys are still going to get sued. And the real answers to this are above my pay grade. I don't know how we fix it.
I don't either.
Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, like this video, consider subscribing, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video. Please leave us a question, comment below. Let us know what you think about Governor Ron DeSantis' efforts and if you think it'll work or not. And until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.